inaugurating the 15th edition of the India Business Conference. The theme of this year's conference is Future of India, Taking the Winning Leap. We're talking about the building blocks as part of our keynote sessions. These include the macroeconomic policies, the monetary policies, and the political reforms. As part of our the growth drivers of the Indian economy, we are covering 3 panel sessions: consumer, investments, and technological innovation.
Our aim at the club is to take forward the discussion which is going on in the South Asian part of the world, and in particular, this conference focuses on India. So India is right now is at a very interesting inflection point where the growth is ticking off, and India is the fastest growing country in the world right now. That India is the only country which is showing positive growth numbers. So the growth is also growing, whereas most other growing nations, the growth is now starting to slow down. So this conference is trying to focus on discussing that. What are the key drivers of that growth? What are the key risk factors that the country needs to be aware of? And how policymakers, entrepreneurs, and investors can be aware of those risk factors as well as the growing enabling factors and extract opportunities out of those drivers, as well as be aware of the risks and minimize the downside.
If I looked at my portfolio of Indian stocks every 5 years, what I would find is half the portfolio has turned itself over and exited. There have been a couple of stocks that stay in the whole time, but it's a very dynamic market. And that's what you want. You want a high nominal GDP growth, which India is around 11%. You want growing population, growing economy, and then that creates a very fertile hunting ground for you, even if optically the valuations are high.
I think it's an exciting opportunity for us to have a lot of different voices from India coming in and sharing their perspective on what the way ahead for India looks like. 2019 is an exciting year. It's a pivotal year in many ways because we're going to see a change in government potentially, and that might have its own ramifications. So having all of these leaders from across politics and business and technology and entrepreneurship coming and speaking and sharing their perspective on what the India story looks like, I think is a very compelling, very compelling proposition for whoever happens to be in New York today. And we're excited to have over 300 people in attendance, students from Columbia and from other universities, as well as industry professionals who are working in the city of New York. We also have some people who've flown in from other cities, and I think that sort of speaks to the quality of the event we've been able to put together.
70% of companies over $1 billion in revenue in India are family-owned or family-controlled. That is important because, as it turns out, India's growth is going to rest on the shoulders of a number of these families finding ways as HDFC and others have, to find the right talent to grow. And second, we know that intellectual capital follows financial capital. There's no secret to that, right? I think we all can understand that and accept that at some level. And for family-owned businesses to be able to nurture, develop, provide autonomy, provide agency to the next line of managers, or provide even some degree of ownership to them becomes critical. 40% of businesses will actually turn from first gen to second gen, 35 from second gen to third gen over the next 10 to 12 years. And my sense is, in those generational transitions, we're already seeing it, many more professionals. And I think we can now see, and I think Viral had mentioned this earlier in the morning, is that we're not seeing as much brain drain in India as we have in the past, right? So we're actually seeing a lot of high talent people stay in India. A number of people are coming back. I think the net is still outflow, but we're seeing a reversal of that. And I think a lot of that simply stems from the fact that there are simply more opportunities for professionals. India has had $115 billion invested in private equity over the last 15 years. And that is among the highest rate, if you will, per dollar of GDP invested among all emerging markets. So India continues to be a very attractive investment for private equity investments. Number two, India has been on a long learning journey. And over the last couple of years, India has emerged with a much better record on both returns, exits, and the ability to produce robust investment opportunities for investors. So India is improving, and I have to say this has been an interesting journey from the lows in 2009 and 10, post the global financial crisis, to now a much more vibrant environment for investors.
So the subject, which is value creation through customer centricity in India, So there are many layers of customer centricity in India in terms of relationships, in terms of affordability, in terms of aspirations. So we are going to discuss this topic. And it's a good understanding of the market and Indian practices. A lot of Indian practices can be modulated or moderated in other countries in the world also. So India can be an incubator for a lot of ideas. So I think there are certain principles of management which are consistent across the countries. But along with the principles, there are some local nuances which need to be incorporated. So I see it as a combination. I see it as Jugalbandi. I see it as a Ganga Jamuna Saraswati confluence. That's what I think of it.
The student community really enjoying the conference because the business school brings a lot of distinguished speakers. This year we have Deputy Governor Viral Acharya is here, the RBI Governor. He was talking about the economic policy, the demonetization and other policy. The actor Anupam Kher just now spoke. He was talking about the relationships and the family and also never give up an attitude which is very important for the student community to rise up and being successful in their careers.
So Columbia Conference, India Conference has always been a signature event in New York, especially with regards to India. It has seen very good speakers every time, and today also we had the Deputy Governor RBI talking about India and Indian economy. We also had a very popular segment from Anupam Kher. So therefore, very interesting sessions so far. Now we have further sessions on private equity and investments into India. I have a small session again on the bankruptcy code. So hopefully all these sessions are so interesting. We see a lot of audience participation. It's a great event to be here.